you all. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I've already told Helena that this is the first time in 2 weeks I could put my makeup on and wear something different than my tracksuit. So, you know, like I'm very happy that I got to this virtual meeting, and that I also can give back to the European Youth Parliament, the organization that actually shaped me and helped me in many ways to get where I am right now, even though it's really not that far away. So yeah, you probably know from all those materials that Helena sent you. My name is Zosia Wanat. I'm Polish, but I live in Belgium, in Brussels, in Belgium right now, because I work here at Politico Europe. I'm a policy reporter. That means that I basically cover everything that is going on in the European institutions, and my policy area is food, retail, and food supplies. So this is actually quite timely, you know, when we talk about the coronavirus crisis and, you know, how little food we find nowadays on the shop shelves. This is basically what I cover every day for Politico. But I also, because I'm Polish and also I am like the only Polish reporter at Politico, I also cover Poland. So I cover politics as well, not only policies, but also politics. Before that, I started my career as an international journalist at the Financial Times, and I started to work in Warsaw, then I worked from London, and then I worked from Paris, and then I moved to Brussels to work for a small news agency which is called MLEX, and there I covered Brexit. So that's more or less how my last 5 years looked like. Yeah, so I find it quite difficult to talk about, you know, my daily life and what I do as if it was something extraordinary. So I will keep it very short, if that's okay. And you can just ask me any question you want, because otherwise I just, you know, I don't really know what you were interested in, and I want it to be as useful as possible for you guys. So please just, or if you want to have a question when I am sort of speaking, then just ask it, because that will be much better. I mean, Helena and I, we discussed a bit on like what you might want to know. So maybe I just thought that I will sort of paint you the picture of how my everyday life as a journalist looks like. And there is this one quote that I found one day, and I think it sums up really well how my daily life as a journalist looks like. And it reads, "Journalism will kill you, but it will keep you alive while you're at it." And this is like exactly how I feel about the profession I am in, because it is difficult and exhausting, but it's also extremely rewarding. And I sort of can't imagine my life without it right now at this point. You know, I might change my mind in a year time, but for now it is really what sort of keeps me going and keeps me alive, really. Yeah, why do I say that? So I mean, what is so bad and what is so good about journalism? So I will start with the bad things, because we love talking, you know, about bad things. So first of all, it's just really, as I said, it really is exhausting and time consuming, and this is not a 9-to-5 job. And I know that some of you're probably, you know, younger than I am, and you're looking for like a possible potential future career path. So if you like a 9-to-5 job, this is not the right job for you, because you can really just keep working for like 15 hours and it's literally never enough, especially during the times like we are in right now. So with the coronavirus crisis, right, like I've been like on the go for the last 2 weeks without breaks, without weekends. I even had to postpone this particular webinar, because you know, something came up, like the ministers meeting came up, and I had to follow that. And, you know, like there are other professions, right, that require a lot of work and a lot of time. And when you work in finance or when you work as a consultant, you also work long hours. What is different, I think, about journalism is that you never know how many hours it will be. You can wake up easily and think, oh, this is going to be such a simple, easy day, and I'm going to go to a cinema. And then obviously it's just not, or the other way around. You just never know. You never know what the day holds, really. So so there are people who would just, you know, hate it completely. I really like it for now. I don't think how long I can do it, but it also sort of affects your life, because, you know, like for the last 4 years, I couldn't really take up any regular hobby, for example. This is like out of question, because you never know if you can't go to dance classes or, I don't know, language course, because you just never know what you will have to do. So you just have to keep that in mind, that this is just very time consuming. Also, it means long nights, especially, you know, in Brussels, you cover all the European Council summits. It's just, sometimes it gets crazy. The other thing is that this job is particularly competitive, and it's because people who want to be journalists usually are very competitive themselves. But also, as you probably realize, the industry is shrinking. There are not so many job openings. I mean, I remember there are very, very few in international media. There are on the Polish market, this is my national market that I know, on the Polish market, there were just none, you know, like I was just looking for a job in journalism and there was just none. So you really have to get creative about how to even get to the industry. And then it's not easy. I mean, it doesn't get much easier later. If you want to get promoted, if you want to get from one company to another, people realize that. So like within companies, they are usually competitive. Is it working? Yeah? Okay, cool. Because something, yeah, okay. So yeah, I mean, this is, and again, you would probably find that in other professions, but given that from my experience, there are really a lot of young people, amazing young people, all of them speaking, you know, 15 languages and with like 7 diplomas and whatnot, and they want to get to journalism, and there are so few opportunities. It is just very difficult, and very often it is just about luck, right? It's not about your abilities. I always say that I was really, really lucky. I was probably also good, but it didn't really matter, because like you had to be lucky to be able to get an opportunity to get into the job. So these are sort of those two things that you would have to be prepared for if you would like to start this career. But I mean, yeah, as I said, this is also extremely rewarding. And I remember one of my colleagues, she told me recently, she was like, you know, like I never thought I could do these things that I do and meet these people that I meet, and there is someone who is willing to pay me for this. This is, you know, this is crazy. And this is how I feel like when I'm not very angry or very tired. This is how I feel. It's you get access, maybe not everywhere, but to many places that other people don't have access to. You get to meet especially in Brussels, right? Like you get to meet world leaders and, you know, policy makers and CEO of the biggest companies, and you can ask them questions and you can keep them accountable, and you can just, you know, you can get to meet them and you can talk about their children and their dogs, and you know, you just can't do it because you are a journalist. So this is cool, and you sort of, you know, go to bed and you think, oh my God, I talked to the CEO of that huge company. I mean, he's really cool, and I don't know, like it's really something that you will be able to I don't know, tell your grandchildren about this one day, or you can just, I don't know, have many nice stories and anecdotes to talk about with your friends. And it's great. I mean, this is this feeling of sort of having an access and being in the center of all the developments. This is like really cool, and it really can keep you going. And it's also something that's very hard to give up on, because I just don't, before I joined Financial Times in Warsaw, I started my career really early when I was like 20, and I worked for some Polish media, and then I sort of thought I would like to do something else, and I went to work for a big consultancy, to one of big 4 companies, and I just missed it so much. I missed news. I missed being, you know, following everything. I missed this sort of feeling that you're on top of everything, and you were like, other people sort of depend on you if they get their information or not. So yeah, this is great, and I definitely recommend to anyone to have, at least for some time, this sort of really big affection, I would say, to the profession they are performing. But yeah, from what I just said, you probably realize that this is not a job for everyone. And I was leading this workshop with some students, and they were asking, and sorry, I have a PowerPoint presentation on my other computer, so I can sort of cheat. And they were asking me sort of what sort of qualities, what sort of person you have to be a journalist. And I made this list. And the first point that I put there is that you like reporting what the others say more than you like your own opinion. And, you know, there are different types of journalism. And there's also this type of journalism when you just give your opinion and you think, I think this on Brexit, and I, you know, think that on, I don't know, EU budget. But in the majority of cases, journalism is about reporting and not sort of telling the others what you think. No one cares what I think. They care what, you know, world like European leaders think, or I don't know, NGOs think, or basically other stakeholders, but not me. I'm anonymous in this. So there are many people who are very outspoken and who are really, you know, all over the place, and they have very strong opinions. They are very opinionated, and often they think that they would be very good journalists. And from my experience, I think that it's not entirely the case. I mean, it could be a case sometimes, but I mean, this is very important, to be able to listen to other people and to be able to report on what they say in a way that the others understand. And it's much more important to be able to do that than, you know, to sort of have an opinion on everything. Obviously you should have an opinion on everything, but you just should be able to, you know, sort of separate it from your work, because this is not what your work usually is about. Then another thing which is sort of linked is that a good reporter should be unbiased and should be cold-minded. So again, if someone is very passionate about something, this is not a really good material for a reporter, because if someone is, I don't know, like super green, right? He's very engaged in like environment, like pro-environment actions. It's very hard for that person to report objectively about environment topics. I mean, obviously it happens that there are people who can separate it completely, but yeah. No? Okay. But from my experience, it's like, you know, like being cold-minded and not like super passionate about topics helps, rather than yeah, it helps you to sort of get your objective reporting done. Then another point there is to be a storyteller. And yeah, again, this doesn't apply to every journalism, because if you do like very simple news journalism, storytelling isn't necessary. But still, when I talked to my editor during my like year review, and I was very worried about my English, I was like, I'm not a native speaker, is that a problem for you? And then he said, no, not at all, because what you can do is you can just, you know, have a very logical argumentation in your text. You can tell a story, you can just, you know, build arguments one after another. And this is what we are looking for when we hire journalists. So yeah, this sort of ability to, you know, to know what your story is and how to tell it well is apparently, according to my editors, even more more important than, you know, language purity, for example, even if you work in English. And then another point is humble, hardworking, and resistant. I wrote this presentation like 3 years ago, I think, and I would rethink this humble thing. I know where it came from. What I meant back then is that it is, when you start as a journalist, you will probably not get a front page story right away. You will be writing, I don't know, news reports, like financial results, for a year before you get like a big story on the front page, unless you're like super lucky or like extraordinarily talented or something. But yeah, usually it really takes time to sort of build the skill and then be noticed, and then your editors would give you a better project and like a better story to work on. And this is very important, not to take it personally, but just be humble and just work through your way. And but also, this is something that, because I'm also still learning, and this is something I've learned over the last years, that you have to be pushy and you have to push for yours, because otherwise it is just not going to happen. Like this is going to happen in 5 years instead of 1 year. So you know, be humble, but not too much, maybe, I would say. But then hardworking and resistant to this pressure, and to the fact that, yeah, that at the beginning sometimes it gets really hard, and newsrooms are just super busy in general, and there are not many people who might want to help you, and you have to sort of, yeah, exactly, just work your way up. It's sometimes it's really disheartening, and it was sort of in my case, but also in the case of other people I know, my colleagues. So yeah, this is something I would keep in mind. And then at the end, I said that people, you know, when you think about journalists, you think about a person who writes like me, but also, or reports, talks to people, but also, I don't know, broadcasts, right, in the television, and all those other skills that you can bring to a newsroom, especially at the beginning, are absolutely great. And that could be if you can produce a podcast, if you can produce a video, or you can record a video, like shoot a video, if you can code. That, like, the newsrooms are just crazy about coding nowadays, just data crunching, data finding data sets online. I have no idea, I don't know how to do it, but there are people who do it really, really well. And then, yeah, data analysis, graphics, or even social media journalism, you know, like if you know how to do Snapchat video, or I don't know, TikTok, or whatever people do right now, well, this is a skill, because people like me and my editors who are like 50, they have no idea either, you know, and you come with your fresh perspective and you're like, look, like people use TikTok right now or Snapchat right now, and they would be interested, because this is like a new public, and probably you can't use it at the Financial Times for obvious reasons. But then at Politico, I'm like really I've been telling my my editors quite a lot that like we should set up an Instagram account because all the other media publications have Instagram accounts. And they were like, yeah, but we would have to have someone who knows how to do it. And then I'm like, yeah, that's true. I mean, you know, I can do my own Instagram account, but then I can't really do the Instagram account of a media organization. There are people who are really trained how to do it well. So all these like other skills that you could bring to a newsroom are great, and they would really be appreciated by anyone who would hire you, or I don't know, like people who would work with you. Plus, obviously, I didn't write it there. I probably shouldn't tell you that either, but like language skills, again, not everywhere, but definitely in Brussels, all Brussels newsrooms, they hire international people because it's just so valuable to have people who don't speak English only, but also other languages. It's a bit different in the UK because in the UK, no one cares. They just want you to speak good English. So yeah, you know, many things depend on where you would like to apply and where you would like to work at. But I think these are like those important things in mind to keep in mind, even like before you start applying, just, you know, if you wonder if you are the right candidate. And yes, Helena asked me to tell you, I mean, if there's any university program or that could help you to get there, or how does EYP help? When it comes to the university, I didn't study journalism because when I studied 10 years ago, everyone kept saying that this is very stupid to study journalism. And in many cases, and probably in Polish case, the case as well, it's still true because the curricula, they're just not adapted to the reality. But there are several really great courses in journalism, especially in London, like City University is great for journalists. They have those very tailored courses on like investigative journalism, on data journalism, on multimedia journalism. So I know that many people, many of my colleagues actually graduated the City University. So that if you would like to study this, that would be something to look into. I personally, when I chose my university, I was thinking about becoming a journalist. That was sort of a dream, but because I knew that I shouldn't really choose journalism, I wanted some sort of knowledge that I would put into journalistic like journalistic, you know, program, right? So I just thought I would have some knowledge and then I would be just writing about this. I would just learn journalism on the go. That was my thinking, which wasn't bad. I think maybe I would have done some things differently, but yeah, for now I think that for, you know, for what I could have done back then, that was a good idea. And yeah, so I had this individual program in like humanities, which in some countries functions as artes liberales. And I did, like, I majored in international relations, and I had some courses also in cultural anthropology because I just found it interesting. And yeah, and later I also studied at at the College of Europe, and I studied European politics. So yes, you know, like you can see that it sort of all boils down to being in Brussels and write about EU policies. This is something I've always wanted to do, and now I'm here. So obviously I can say that I'm just a very lucky person because yeah, this is what I wanted and this is what I have. But yeah, but this was my path, and I can imagine. I know many lawyers who are journalists, for example. I know many people who have very specific economic knowledge. There are not too many economic journalists. So you know, if you understand how the economy works, it is really, it would be a big asset for you to write more sort of more articles which are focused on economy, for example. And there really is a demand for that. Yeah, and when it comes to the EYP, the moment of truth is that I've been a journal once, I think, at the international session, but I didn't really enjoy it because I never really liked like EYP journalism. It was like, I found it, yeah, people just wanted to have fun and I wanted to write those serious analyses or something. I don't know, I just didn't like it. I preferred to be a chair, and I always chaired at the sessions, and so I can't really say that the EYP gave me much in terms of my, of my journalistic skills. I believe it can, and there are so many opportunities right now that you could use also with this like multimedia journalism. You can just try to do it at the EYP and see what you like and what you don't like. But for me, it was more about, like, again, meeting people from other countries, learning about their stories, learning about, like, I just learned so many like potential article subjects just from my EYP friends. And even last week, when the coronavirus crisis started, I was in the Czech Republic, and thank God I wasn't like, stuck there. But I was visiting my friends at the Czech Republic, and I met some of my other friends whom I met via the EYP, and he actually gave me like a story idea that I developed later on Monday. But to develop that story idea, it was about coronavirus disinformation circulated on WhatsApp. And it turned out that different EU countries had different sort of messages that circulated over WhatsApp. And I just wrote a Facebook message on my wall saying like, hi, like, I'm writing this article. Can you give me some examples from your country? And I got like 80% of all the replies I got were from my old friends from the EYP. And I, like, at the end, I gathered like 7 different examples of WhatsApp, WhatsApp messages. And yeah, it is like literally 10 years after I left this organization. So, and I don't think any of my colleagues, I mean, my colleagues are quite international, so maybe not them, but like, this is a huge asset that I have and that you have as well. Like, this huge network, this like people you can talk to and you can ask questions, and they can give you they can inspire you. This is really amazing, and this is really what journalism is about, sort of coming up with ideas and talking to people and finding out what's important for them. I think the EYP was like the best platform to do that when I was a bit younger than I am now. So yeah, that would be it for me. If you have any questions, please